For centuries, the Quran has been understood as a profound spiritual and literary guide. But what if there's another layer to it? Some researchers are now claiming that just beneath the surface, there's an intricate, deliberate, mathematical design, a kind of divine blueprint hidden in plain sight. Now, the theory we're diving into today is built on verses just like this one. The source material we're pulling from takes this statement very, very literally. It proposes that nothing could actually include a whole layer of mathematical proof woven right into the fabric of the text itself. And this leads us to our big question for today. Could the Quran really contain a sophisticated mathematical code, something that might point to a design far beyond what was humanly possible at the time? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore.
So, let's start with the core idea from our source material. The claim is that the Quran isn't just a text you read from front to back, but a complex mathematical structure. And we're not just talking about simple things like word counts, but a deeply interlocking system of numbers and patterns.
Now, one of the tools used in this kind of analysis is something called the digital root. It's pretty simple, actually. It's just a way of boiling any number down to a single digit by adding its digits up over and over. So, for example, the number 25 would just be 2 plus 5, which is 7. Simple, right? According to the source, little techniques like this help reveal some of the hidden patterns. So, with a book this vast, where would you even begin to look for a code? Well, this theory points to a very specific entryway, a kind of portal into this whole numerical world. And that portal is the 15th chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Hijr. This is supposedly the key that unlocks the entire system. The first thing you notice about this chapter is its length. Surah 15 has exactly 99 verses. Now, for anyone familiar with Islamic tradition, that number, 99, immediately jumps out. It perfectly matches the 99 names of Allah. And this is presented as the very first clue that we're in a pretty special part of the text. And here's the first big aha moment the theory presents. If you take the chapter number 15 and you add its 99 verses, what do you get? 114. Why is that number a big deal? Because it's the exact total number of chapters in the entire Quran. So the source asks, is this just a wild coincidence, or is it the first sign of an intentional design? Okay. Now let's zoom in a little bit closer. The source claims that inside this portal chapter, a single verse holds what it calls an ancient, universally recognized mathematical signature. The theory points us to a very specific spot, the 87th verse of chapter 15. And it claims the clue isn't in what the words mean, but in their exact placement within the sentence. Here's the verse itself. Now, traditionally, it's understood to be talking about the 7 verses of Surah Al-Fatiha, the opening chapter. But according to this theory, there's a whole other layer of meaning encoded right into its structure. So here's how the pattern is apparently found. First, you zero in on the key phrase, 7 of the often repeated. Now, in the original Arabic, the core words of this phrase happen to be the 3rd, 4th, and 5th words of the entire verse. That gives us a really simple numerical sequence, 3, 4, 5.
And this is the incredible payoff. That sequence, 3, 4, 5, is instantly recognizable to mathematicians, engineers, builders, really anyone throughout history. It's the first and most famous Pythagorean triple. It's the foundation of geometry, where 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. It's a universal signature of perfect order and design, and this research claims it's encoded right here, in the very structure of this verse.
Okay, but that's one clue in one verse. I mean, how could that possibly connect to a book with over 6,000 verses? Well, to answer that, the theory says we have to zoom all the way out and look at what it calls the grand design, or the master frame. This theory suggests a master frame that's created by finding the very first and the very last time the specific word Al-Quran appears in the text. The first mention is way back in chapter 2, verse 185. The final mention is found much, much later in chapter 85, verse 21. So you have these 2 chapters, number 2 and number 85, and they basically act as these structural bookends. They create a kind of protective frame around the whole text where the word Al-Quran is mentioned. And this is where it all connects back to that single verse we looked at. So what happens when we take the numbers of these 2 framing chapters? If we add the first one, chapter 2, to the last one, chapter 85. The sum is 87. Now, where have we seen that number before? It is the exact verse number, verse 87 of Surah 15, where that Pythagorean code was supposedly hidden. The claim here is that this is a direct link, connecting the macro structure of the entire book right back to the micro detail of that one coded verse. This all leads to a really obvious question. Why? I mean, why would such a complex and hidden system even exist in the first place? Well, according to the source, the purpose isn't just to be a clever puzzle. It's meant to serve a really profound spiritual goal. The whole purpose is said to be about cultivating a state known as yaqeen. This is an Arabic term for a state of absolute certainty and conviction, a level of faith that is just completely free from any and all doubt. This intricate design is meant to serve as a kind of rational proof that helps guide a believer to that spiritual station. The source also points out some practical applications for this whole theory. It suggests that in education, you could integrate mathematics with scriptural studies. For your own spiritual reflection, it could offer a totally new framework for contemplation. And for outreach, or da'wah, it could provide what are described as rational proofs that really speak to a modern audience. And this brings us completely full circle. Here we're looking at the final verse of our portal chapter, Surah 15. The 99th verse explicitly commands the reader to strive for this exact state, yaqeen, or certainty. It's as if the entire structure we've been exploring, from the 99 verses of the chapter down to the mathematical codes, is a giant map that leads directly to this final instruction. The source material we've explored today presents all these interlocking patterns, the portal chapter, the Pythagorean code, the master frame, as evidence of a deliberate superhuman design. And so it leaves us with one final provocative question. If a 1,400-year-old text truly does contain this kind of perfect mathematical architecture, what might that imply about its origin?